welcome to the live stream. We took a little longer because there was like a planned music introduction that needed to happen. So welcome. We are Halloween themed, but also train themed because I am dressed as a Lolita train conductor today. So, we also have 4 costumes for Dora. She is currently dressed as a donut in perfect theme with the live stream, but she's doing things we're not allowed to interfere with. So, I will admit, most of Dora's costumes are in fact just novelty donuts that we got for her when she got surgery. So, but one of them makes her look like an actual donut. So she is in fact always on brand. It turns out when your brand is cats and you have a cat, the cat is always on brand. I am a little disappointed you can't really see the shininess of the conductor hat the way we have this lit, but welcome. Apparently it is Anna's Bravo's first time at the live stream. Welcome to the live stream. Today is just gonna be a chill trick-or-treating live stream. We have 2 donuts to try today. I have some various financial horror stories, but not like gory horror stories, mostly just about things like title fraud. On from Reddit, and I thought we would maybe read them and react to them. I tried to do financial ghost stories last year. I do not have the delivery acting skills to deliver great ghost stories, especially when alone in my house and not like around a campfire in a dark woods. So no ghost stories, but we are gonna just be looking at like financial horror stories of when things don't work the way that they should. So I don't know. This is not meant to be a particularly spooky stream, but I thought we would do something Halloween themed. My other idea for a Halloween themed stream, because today is the last day of Budgetober, was actually to do a stream about inflation and hyperinflation. And then I was kind of like putting together ideas for it, and it turns out that Planet Money, the NPR radio show and podcast, did a radio horror story about inflation, and I would highly recommend listening to it. They did some great like spooky audio design on it. So if you want to do any kind of if you want to hear what this live stream would have been if I had had a team of 10 people and NPR's budget, then you can go over and listen to that. Instead, we're going to do extremely low effort, which is that I am going to, I'm going to just read other people's stories from Reddit and we're going to react to them. But I will show you what the donuts are. So the first donut, all the donuts this month are black or gray. So, wow, this is hard to see, but this is a blackberry chili lime donut, and it's got such good Halloween colors going on here. And the other donut, which I probably will not like appropriate enough to it because I do not like chocolate that much, but this is a pomegranate black forest donut, and I got it for the aesthetics alone. I mean, if that's not a beautiful Halloween donut, what is? So, but I probably won't like it as much as appropriate just because I don't like chocolate that much. But maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. I love pomegranate. So, not low effort, homespun. Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to give me Planet Money's budget and all of that staff to work with, then I'm sure I could come up with something far more elaborate. But, you know, we're not there right now with our like 750 YouTube subscribers and just me working on Oh My Dollar extremely part-time. Yeah, the pomegranate Black Forest is really a gorgeous donut. I also put it on this this nice like handmade plate because I felt like it was just it needed a really over the top plate to show it off. But I think I'll probably like the blackberry chili lime more just because it's more up my alley. But okay, everybody really appreciates donut. I will be sure to let the donut shop employees know that. All right, I'm already losing my conductor white gloves. I'm sorry, y'all. It's too hot under these studio lights. I might also have to lose my ruffled top. This is like just being under these lights in all of these layers is really a lot. We went to take some pictures of my Halloween costume at the Oregon Rail Heritage Association's museum with some of the trains. And this was like the appropriate temperature outfit to be wearing outside the day before November starts in Oregon. So obviously under hot lights, it might not be quite as good, but you know, we still got the conductor hat. So it's different. And the train track earrings. Maybe I can put one glove back on now that I have the jacket off. How are people? How is everybody doing? How is your week going or your Halloween going? Has anybody gone trick-or-treating today? Because for folks that are in other time zones than me, trick-or-treating has already started and happened. I feel like yesterday it was dark at 5 p.m. and it's not now. So I don't know. Maybe yesterday time moved differently. But it is soon will be trick-or-treating o'clock in Portland. So Joe says we went. It was quite fun. Oh yes, because you're in tomorrow already. I didn't know that trick-or-treating was a thing that you all did in Australia. Because it's not really done in most places. I feel like it's like the most un-American holiday, yet I think it is mostly only in America. But I am very enthusiastic about Halloween because it is a holiday. It's the National Pedestrian Holiday. It is the only holiday that celebrates walking around in your neighborhood, which is pretty rad. And costumes, which obviously I'm a big fan of. And meeting your neighbors and giving them free candy for walking around in your neighborhood, pretty rad. The whole like spooky thing, I'm less sold on, but I do appreciate a holiday with a solid color scheme. So Joe says it is slightly more of a thing in Australia now than 10 years ago when we didn't do it. That's pretty cool. Jenny says, I took my daughter trick-or-treating and she is now eating all the candy before bed. Oh, that sounds great for you. I mean, she will fall asleep probably very quickly after she runs off all of the energy, so. Fuzzbubble says, in the East Coast US, we got some trick-or-treaters, which I love. That's awesome. We live in an apartment building, so we will not be getting any trick-or-treaters, unfortunately. Like, we live in a secure building. If I hadn't had the live stream, I may have gone to a friend's house to like hang out. I've now gotten my booster this week, so I feel even more confident with my ability to give people candy. Dean says there were folks around here trick-or-treating earlier with their kids. I didn't realize that trick-or-treating had such a global saturation as it does here. Something I found something interesting was the trick-or-treating isn't really a thing, but Halloween, the way that we celebrate it here in the US is like young adults, which is mainly parties where people dress up, happens during Carnival in Venice. It's like nobody dresses up in Carnival costumes that is actually a Venetian that lives there. They all like have secret rave parties and dress up as like lamps and stuff like that. Abel Jack says, I gave the proto-humans high fructose corn syrup and it made them go away. Wow, you make it sound so exciting. Anna says, I'm from Mexico. I'm not sure if someone will come for trick-or-treating around here, but I love the costumes. I I'm like always eager to know. I feel like we need a map of where trick-or-treating actually happens. Maybe we can just make a map from this live stream from like the 4 countries that we have represented. Craig says, my kids are out trick-or-treating now. So much candy they had to make a stop back here at home to empty candy buckets and go out for more. Oh my gosh. Do you think that people are more generous this year trick-or-treating because a lot of people didn't do it last year? Because last year there were some people that were still doing it if they were either just pretending the pandemic didn't exist or they like came up with elaborate methods to like do it without making contact. Like people were making chutes through their yard and stuff. That is one, I live in an apartment building several stories up, so that's clearly not something I'm going to do. Also, not that many people would do it anyway. But I wonder if people are like more generous this year or if people are less generous because generally a lot of things have inflated, especially food supplies and stuff like that. Although I did not look at a candy inflation index because I'm wondering if actual Halloween candy did inflate in price. Because probably it went into production, 3-4 months ago, and they were putting their orders in at a time when it was kind of pre-Delta variant. So everybody was like, oh, we'll be fully back by Halloween. Not pre-Delta variant existing, but pre-Delta variant, making the US reconsider our ability to be continually affected by the pandemic. Oh, did we lose our costume? Oh, Kitten is coming back in with her costume. Oh, Jenny says that Daddy gets to do bedtime today. Yes. If you can shove off the candy hyped child. Here is Dora's costume. She is dressed as Donut, which is 100% just a novelty medical device, but I felt like it was very appropriate for the stream. We do have 3 other costumes on the floor, though, so we might check back in on the cat cam to see if more costume changes happen during the live stream. She can be 2 other pieces of food and a bat. Stores probably already had the stock 3 to 4 months ago, I'm guessing. I don't know, when I worked grocery, the stores themselves wouldn't have gotten the stock, but the candy would have gone into production and like the orders would have been made. Abel Jack says, I got 18 ounces of mixed good candy for $10, more expensive than 2019. So this is actually a thing that I was thinking about doing on the Oh My Dollar forums. This is relevant. I want to do an Oh My Dollar inflation index where people just, whatever things you've noticed that have changed in price or changed in what you're getting, because that has been one of the things that's happened for people is you'll pay the same amount, but you're getting something less. So maybe the bags of pretzels at the store are getting smaller or whatever for the same price. I would like to start a chain on the forums of people just kind of keeping track of inflation by region and country for different things. I'm very curious because I feel like we have the power of a lot of people who track just things in their personal life that have noticed it. More than just like groceries have gone up, like kind of what some of the specific things are. Craig says people are being more generous by candy by a lot over 2019 in my neighborhood. House decorations are more elaborate too. There's been some pretty good house decorations in the rich neighborhood near me where people actually have houses. There's no rich neighborhood where the neighborhood I'm currently in is not. It's a lot of apartment buildings and like retirement communities and assisted living facilities. And so there just is less yard to decorate, more people living in a building. But the rich people live up on the hill, not that far from here. And I have been biking through and seeing some fantastic yard decorations in the rich people's yards, including some pretty funny skeletons with some political commentary on them. Jenny says, here in Canada, the candy was definitely more expensive than last year. A box of 100 pieces was about twice the price that it was last year, but we have different candy than the U.S. Yeah, I'm curious. A lot of your candy is produced by U.S. companies, but in Canada, I believe, right? It's like separate branding. I know that M&Ms are Smarties up there like they are in the UK, unless that is a dated reference. Maybe that's not true anymore. Donut Door is very cute. She's really cute. She's insisting on not sitting in the donut cam box or the cat cam box. Instead is just sitting on a box as a tiny donut. But she is really cute. There we go. Look at this donut cat. It's adorable. Cheryl says, we give out movie-sized candy. That, see, were you giving out movie-sized candy in 2019? I don't know if you skipped 2020 or not. Oh, Maggie into Woods also asked how my booster went. It was rough, but I'm happy that I got it. The actual getting the booster experience, super easy. We live in a neighborhood with tons of pharmacies, and I was able to walk out of my house with no appointment and walk out with a vaccine 5 minutes later, with a booster in my arm. Like, that was how easy it was. Walk in, no appointment, just sit down, poof, which was pretty awesome. Additionally, I felt fine. So I got the Moderna booster. I originally got J&J. And in the US, they just made it so that if you got J&J more than 2 months ago, regardless of age, underlying conditions, you qualify for a booster from any of the three. So you get a pick if you want to do J&J, Moderna, or Pfizer. I chose Moderna because the data said that that was the best mix, like it came with the best immune response. Now I'm kind of wondering if maybe I should have done Pfizer because Moderna boosters are a half dose as opposed to the Pfizer boosters, which I believe are a full dose. But it was, and I would have done a full dose just because I'm immunosuppressed. This was all a long explanation to say the actual process of getting the booster was really great. The amount of guilt I feel over how rich countries are getting boosters out to people, lots of young, healthy people that are not in high-risk professions, and still less than 5% of healthcare workers in the African Union have even had their first dose of the vaccine. Not loving it. Not loving the global inequity in the supply chain. So, yeah. Dean says Smarties and M&Ms are different here. Oh, interesting. Oh, Cheryl says we did a shoot last year in movie candy. John says we also give out booze to the parents. I can't see your original post. I think only you can see it, John. You were concerned, but that is hilarious. Do you give out tiny little boozes to the parents, or do you like mix them drinks? Maggie in the Wood says, I'm sorry it was rough. My appointment was way too easy, but surprisingly not awful like my first 2 shots were. Mine were all Moderna. Yeah, I don't know if it was particularly rough for me because I'm immunosuppressed, maybe because it was my first time getting an mRNA vaccine, because my previous one was J&J, just being a different formulation. Who knows? Aaron also got Moderna and got J&J for the first one, and definitely was tired, but otherwise, and I had some arm soreness, but otherwise was fine. My fever got up to 102, 103. So it was not quite as high as I got for the first one, but I also tend to run usually below normal temperature. So my normal temperature is 97.2, and I got all the way up to 103. Do not know all the conversions, but I think it was over 38 Celsius, over 38 Celsius, I believe. I was too warm. Jenny says, we have Halloween boxes of Smarties that are sort of like M&Ms, but not quite. Mars bars, Kit Kat, Wunderbar. and Coffee Crisp. They are made somewhere in Ontario. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we don't have Wunderbars here. Are Wunderbars the same as like Wunder eggs? I mean, I guess the eggs are a different thing. We don't have the Wunder chocolates, the Kinder like eggs or any of them here because America's too litigious. I don't really like chocolate, so literally none of those are very exciting to me. The that was the big thing for me as a kid that trick-or-treated was I didn't like chocolate and my best friend was allergic to chocolate, and between the two of us we had like a pretty good marketplace going of being able to exchange chocolate the day after Halloween with other kids in the class where we would get their other things. Cheryl says we have Kinder eggs. Yeah, but they're not the same. They come with toys in them in Europe. Dean says these decisions we have to make this day. Imagine what 2019 us would have thought. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely thought more about boosters and vaccines than I ever have before. We were, we give you like a badge on the Oh My Dollar forums when you get your flu shot, although I'm very behind on granting them right now. And that was like the most I thought about vaccines other than when I was going abroad and I, had to get them. So Joe says we've got boosters available. I still haven't had my second normal one because I think they just want to get people vaccinated since we have a hesitant population. Yeah, we have them here because we are rich, and I don't really understand by how offering boosters fixes the people that are reluctant to get vaccinated, but it does give us something to do with all the doses we're wasting from people that are refusing to get vaccinated. So cool. And, they do have utility. I'm very happy to get them as someone who got J&J. So yeah. Maggie in DeWoods says, the global situation blows. It's a complicated mix of feelings in our household. Yeah, I have the same. It's like me, I can't like refuse a booster me individually. That's going to make no difference on the global vaccine supply chain. So there's no utility to doing that for me. But yeah. She is feeling she's still wearing it. She would take it off if she didn't want to wear it. She did you put her on the screen when she was dressed as a strawberry? Oh, good. She's less into the strawberry, but we have more. Jenny says, no Wunderbars. Oh, so sad. They're the yummiest ones that have caramel and Rice Krispies and peanut butter in them. I've never seen Wunder eggs. We have Kinder eggs with toys in them. I've seen Wunder eggs abroad, but maybe they're not the same company. I don't know. Maggie in DeWood says 38 is 101.4. That's what I was at originally, and then I went up higher. So I think I was 38.2 maybe. Ooh. Celsius. It's hard for me. The Journaling Broom says boosters are only for immune-compromised people and elderly in the United States. Not for J&J. For anybody can get a booster for Johnson & Johnson if they are 2 months post their original Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and they can choose any of the three. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be immune-compromised or over 65 or in working with a high-risk population. Boosters for everyone else is on a case-by-case basis. Immune compromised, over 65, 6 months post original vaccine. If your work frontline, and or if just your doctor recommends it. So yeah, it's pretty open. But yeah, if you did get J&J, everybody's qualified. Just 2 months post vaccine. Cheryl says, I have friends who got boosters. Yeah, I know plenty of people who have gotten their booster who don't necessarily fall in a super high risk category. It's pretty easy to get them now in the States. Joe says, I assume I had a fever with my first vaccine, but I never tested. I just stayed dosed with paracetamol. I was, I had an even higher fever for my first vaccine. Cheryl says, friends who are not immune compromised but live with one. Yeah, as far as I can tell, it's been pretty easy. My friend that's gotten, the thing is that like it's only the first round of people, at least in my state, right now who qualify for the non J&J because it's people who got it early that are already 6 months past right now. So most of those people already fall into a frontline category or a high risk category or whatever, at least in my state. But obviously completely varies all over the world. So the, do we want to do financial horror stories? Or do we just want to talk about trick-or-treating? I did not promise amazing content for this live stream, but we have 2 donuts and a cat with 4 costumes. So what else do you want from me? Jenny says, I hope that Canada will soon follow with boosters. We have a lot of older patients who would really benefit as they had their complete vaccination over 9 months ago. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's so long ago. The booster thing is so frustrating to me because I both want them for people, but I also want to stop having variants happen. And the only way to have this virus stop mutating is to get first doses out and second doses out to people, especially people working on the front lines in the global south. And the fact that we are continuing to produce vaccines, buy vaccines in order to get boosters out, which do improve your chances against Delta, but they don't improve your chances necessarily against whatever other variants are brewing because we are not getting vaccines out to immunocompromised people, elderly people, healthcare workers in the global south, many of which are having like huge spikes right now. So, you know, as we've learned, this is a global economy. How long did it take for it to be in every country in the world? It took like 90 days. So it's like, the fact that every single country was affected by this, if we do not get vaccines out to the global south, this pandemic will continue. And it's not just about, oh, the rich countries are safe and the poor countries are not safe. It is a global pandemic. So as long as we continue to not get treatment and let COVID be in people with weaker immune systems like me, in countries because there are no vaccinations available, we are going to continue to have mutations occur because mutations happen when people with weaker immune systems have COVID in them longer, right? So yeah, that's just like, I have feelings about it, but I personally like, this is not, obviously I got a booster. I'm not begrudging anybody for getting a booster. I'm not even really begrudging countries for choosing to do it. I'm just begrudging the fact that rich countries are not putting enough resources into the World Health Organization. They're not doing enough to support vaccine development and production on the African continent, in South America. And because of that, we're going to continue to have issues getting vaccines out. So it's just very frustrating because I would like to be done with this pandemic. We all would like to be done with this pandemic. Dean says, it literally makes no sense to me on any level. It's morally awful, whichever way you slice it. I mean, in the end, countries have a lot. The only difference is that rich countries would be putting money into the World Health Organization because they run COVAX, which is what is getting vaccines out to most of the world's population. And most of the world's countries do rely on COVAX, which is the system for getting vaccinations out to countries that can't afford it. But it's going to be years. The African Union's goal was by the end of next year to have 50% of adults vaccinated. Like, that really tells you something about how different things are proceeding in the rich world than it is in the global south. And it's just very frustrating. But yeah, I understand why countries are doing it. It's a lot easier to deploy the funds for boosters, the supply chain for it in a country that is your own country and also a country with extremely developed healthcare infrastructure. And because of, systemic disinvestment in poor countries and much less infrastructure, it's a lot harder to get out a lot of the vaccines. And unfortunately, the vaccines that work the best in, Johnson & Johnson is a great example, that work the best in countries with less of a cold chain for vaccine supply, because all the mRNA vaccines need that like really complicated super cold storage, and that just isn't available in a lot of poorer countries. But Johnson and Johnson and the one of the other COVAX vaccines, but like the Oxford vaccine, AstraZeneca, that was developed was one of the original COVAX vaccines under the Indian brand. Most of it was being produced in India. India had to halt vaccine production because they had this huge Delta spike that was terrible, had this massive effect on India that had up to that point actually done an extremely good job of controlling the virus. But they are the production for most of COVAX is produced in India. And like that delay meant that we were able to see other variants come out, some of which are vaccine resistant. And it meant that once those AstraZeneca vaccines were out, the first country to get them was South Africa. Of course, the richest country in Africa is the first country to get them. And they ended up sending the vaccines to other countries because the South African variant, as we were calling it at the time, which I think is Epsilon, is the South African variant Delta? I cannot keep track. I think Delta was the Indian variant originally. South African, I think, was Epsilon. Essentially, it was not... like the AstraZeneca was just completely ineffective against it. And so they had to halt the supply that was already out with these companies out for the COVAX. And it's just frustrating because it seems like we can move heaven and earth to get rich countries to get vaccines out. And yeah. The Journaling Broom says COVID mutated 11 times from the first variant before it mutated to Delta, and that was like 15 months. So the possibility that it could mutate into something stronger soon makes me anxious. Yeah, it has quite a few other variants as well, right? Someone was giving me, I'm not a biologist, I'm an economist, so don't quote me on this. South African was beta. Wow, that feels so long ago, like when beta was the worst we were worrying about. Yeah, and AstraZeneca wasn't effective against that, so essentially they were the first to get vaccines. They had the most developed healthcare infrastructure to probably be able to get it out to people, and they had to send it to other countries that didn't have beta at that time. Thank you for looking it up, Dean. Yeah, so Delta was India. Once we started renaming them after characters instead of countries, which is like hilarious because we named the whole thing Corona because we realized we should stop naming them after the original place because it creates all of this bias. And then we were calling on the variants after the place that they had cropped up. So I'm glad they turned into this. It did really turn into a spooky virus stream. And I'm sorry, I do not stream on viruses that much because I really don't know that much about them. But I do know a fair amount about the economics of getting things around just because I understand supply chain economics. So we need to help and protect everyone in the world, and rich countries have a responsibility to help those countries that don't have as many vaccine doses. Yeah, it's not just like, I think the thing that is really important to communicate is that it is not just a philanthropic like endeavor for these countries to help poorer countries. That this is the only way to get the virus under control. This is the only way to end the pandemic, right? And you know, the whole reason that COVAX exists and WHO exists was to get the polio vaccine out in every single country in the world. So, and now polio is only in 2 countries, but I want to note it's been gone in most of the world and definitely the rich countries for a lot longer than the 2 countries that it still persists in. And it's cool that we're down to 2, but like, do we really want to be, 70 years out from this vaccine and we're still seeing countries where it is endemic in, where COVID is endemic in? The Journaling Broom says there was a Mu variant that came after Delta, but Delta is stronger and now Mu is extinct from the USA. But Delta is supposedly over 98% of US cases. Yeah. Sorry that this is turning into a virus stream, but to be fair, it is kind of the spookiest thing going on in all of our lives. So Maybe it is an appropriate thing. I did promise no jump scares. I didn't promise no actual real life anxious things that make you anxious all the time scares. The So from what I understand, as someone who took forest biology and therefore found most of this completely, I did not know nearly enough about all of this. What people were reassuring me was that the variants have happened a lot, and obviously mutations are happening, but one of the reasons that like Delta is so strong is because things can mutate, but they may not mutate in a way that it makes them more effective at transporting between humans. Because even if they mutate to become more deadly, if they don't mutate to also become more infectious, they might end up killing everybody that they are in before anybody is able to before they're able to transmit to other populations. And so a lot of times viruses might mutate into a more deadly version, but then that version doesn't get transmitted, and so it, unfortunately might kill off a whole village or a family or a population or something, but then it dies out because it doesn't have any more hosts to transmit it to other people. So what seems to be effective with Delta is, yes, it is worse. Yes, you can catch it after vaccination, but it's just so much more infectious than the Alpha variant was. Oh, yes, we have another cat costume coming. Cheryl says, I just did the scariest thing. I cleaned the basement bathroom. Oh my gosh. Very scary. Your basement isn't very scary, though. That's my mom, if you all don't know. So I have, in fact, seen her bathroom basement. I'm not just telling her that confidently. All right, I'm going to read you at least one of these. But first, let's look at this piece of toast. She does seem more bitter about this one. Which is funny because this one didn't even work as like a post-surgery donut, because she can just flip it around and get to her face very easily. It's like the least effective donut. She will take it off if she's decided to take it off. Pretty good toast cat though, right? It's really only effective as a costume. It's not effective as a surgery. She's toast colored though. She's like untoasted on the bottom and toasted on the top. All right, I'm gonna read you this one horror story. This comes from Reddit, and then we're gonna eat some donuts, and then we may or may not do another one because we're already pretty deep into the stream, and we've just turned into spooky virus stream. This is very, very long. So, that face, mood undetermined. It's really true. Mood is undetermined. All right. We can watch the cat while I read this spooky horror story to you. This comes from Reddit's, this comes from Reddit. It is 11 years ago. I bought a fixer-upper when I was in college. I saved money up from waiting tables, had a little bit of extra cash, and asked my parents, who don't have a lot of money, to co-sign. 3 months after closing, I am working at the house and the sheriff comes to the door to serve me with papers. I'm being sued. I was speechless. I didn't even recognize the name, but it said that I was in illegal possession of the property. I immediately sent the paperwork to the title company. The representative at the title company's headquarters in Florida said, I wish I could strangle the person who reinsured this house. I didn't really understand. I called the seller of the house and asked him what the hell it was about. The convo got very shady, and he explained that he had heard of the guy before, but all he knew was that he was some quote-unquote crazy guy who used to own the house. I had no idea what was going on. After a while of speaking to the title company, if you don't know, title companies are, you have to get title insurance when you get a mortgage in the US almost all the time. And what title insurance and title companies do is they make sure that the title of a house is clean, because you don't want to buy a house if you can't buy it and own it outright, right? Which is also true of the insurance company. So that ends up being what the purpose of a title company is, and that's why it's really important to have this here. You pay them money when you buy a house to make sure that you can legally buy that house, that there's no liens out on the property, that no one has a claim to it, lawsuit, any of that stuff. So continuing the story, after a while of speaking with the title company, they assigned me and my parents an attorney who would represent our interests in the case. It turns out that this guy, Tim, owned the property 25 years ago, lost it in a lawsuit. The property went to the plaintiff, and then it changed hands a few times until it got to me. I came along not knowing any of this, nothing was public record, and bought this house with title insurance. No red flags, no mention of this from anyone. I have spoken in person to the guy that previously owned the house, Tim, and asked when he will stop the fight. He calmly told me when he was dead. He's not a bad guy, just a little crazy about getting what he thinks is due to him. Well, Tim decided the house was prematurely taken from him, since his lawsuit has since been overturned, and is fighting me to get this house back. It seemed at the time I was just an unlucky dope who owned the house at the time he decided to sue. I can't sell this house because no title company in their right mind would insure a house with an ongoing lawsuit. I've asked dozens, and they all look at me like I'm crazy. Not even the title insurance that is insuring, the title company that is insuring it right now. I could never lie to someone like the seller lied to me and just not tell them about the property or its history. I wouldn't feel right selling a house that will inevitably come under a lawsuit again. It sucks so incredibly bad, and it has been horrible for my family and I. That was 5 years ago. I've since graduated college and tried my best to move on with my life. I never wanted to keep this house as a rental, but now I am forced to. I've considered just letting the property go back to the bank and go through the foreclosure process, but I don't feel like that's the right thing to do, and with my parents on the line as well. It makes me feel incredibly horrible that I brought them into this. As time went on, I realized more and more aspects of this scenario that were a little unsettling. Firstly, I discovered that every owner since Tim, there have been 4, knew of his intentions to get his property back. Every single one had received correspondence from Tim and reverted to the same title company. This includes the previous owner, who is a doctor. In fact, Doc was actually sued by Tim and sent the paperwork to the title company, which is the same as it has always had the policy, who at that point actually offered a settlement to Tim to shut up and leave the property alone. So the threat to my title was so serious that it warranted a settlement offer, but it did not warrant explaining to me that there was someone out there who thought the house was his. It is amazing how long and detailed this case has been even before I bought the house. Everyone knew but me. The stuff we have received in what little discovery we have explains everything. The owner who received the property from Tim for payment from the lawsuit got a friend of his in the title company to quickly ensure a very rushed sale so that it would change hands. The friend was fired by the title company after this was discovered. And the story goes on and on. It's really amazing. I've since realized that the attorney that the title company has provided for me was the same attorney for the last client. However, she never really explained to me what was going on, even when I asked her. We would talk all the time because she was representing my parents and I, and at one point I started to realize something bigger was happening. She refused to answer certain questions because she, quote, walks a very fine line between her clients, meaning who pays her, the title company, and who she represents. It took me almost crying one day for her to admit they've known about Tim prior. They have been dealing with this guy in court for years, and he keeps coming back. Had I known this, I never would have purchased the house. The seller mentioned nothing of this, and he fully knew what was going on. He even was served paperwork on the property prior to me buying it. So I sued the title company and the seller for a whole laundry list of items that they did wrong. It's really in-depth when you get into it. It plays out like a conspiracy novel. We've reached mediation, and neither the title company or the seller were willing to come up with anything substantial. I'm not asking for millions of dollars in damages. I simply want my mortgage paid off so that I can deed the house back to someone else. Anyone. The guy is suing me, the title company, the doc, the state. I don't care about making a profit. I simply want to be done with this house. So now the mediation is done, and I'm left with the decision of whether to move forward. Lawsuits are expensive, and my wife and I want to start a family and move on with our lives. I've always thought of contacting the media. Can I do anything? So the answer of what happened in this was that they filed a fraud claim with the state of Florida. No updates available on this thread, although now I kind of want to go look at their user account, so we're going to look at their user account. Nope. I do want an update, though. There you go. There's your horror story. Another horror story. I have a couple other ones, if you want, most of which are terrifying. I mean, we all know that the real horror story is late-stage capitalism. But I could just pull up the Portland Zillow, and you can see housing costs in Portland. Aaron says, wait, is there no resolution to this story? That's the most horrific part. Ghost stories don't have resolutions, Aaron. That's just how it works. Yes, Cheryl says always get title insurance. Always get title insurance, but maybe make sure you're going with the right title insurance, people. I think that's the most terrifying part of it. All right, let's eat a donut, y'all. All right, donut number 1. We've got 2 donuts up today. This one is blackberry chili lime. And you can see, I think this one's going to be good. Oh, it smells very blackberry-like. It's just a regular donut on the back. I'm having a little bit of the cognitive dissonance thing again, where they've dyed it with food dye, like totally black, but it tastes like an actual blackberry. This is pretty great. Okay, this is so good. Should I try the other one so I still have room? I'm going to finish that donut, though. Oh, apparently this is not too sweet for that one. I'm not really getting the chili, but maybe that's because the top is chili. All right, this is our beautiful, beautiful donut. Yeah, blackberry chili and lime. This is the beautiful donut. This is pomegranate black forest. I mean, look at that donut. It's a very beautiful donut. It's got, I don't know what it has on the top. I think chunks of chocolate. And then the bottom is a just chocolate cake donut. So I might not love this. Oh. This might be the kind of chocolate that I can handle. It's a very subtle chocolate in the cake donut. And the glaze is real pomegranate. It's not like pomegranate flavor. It is actual pomegranate, and it has little pieces of pomegranate on it. This is kind of incredible. Apparently they're both getting tested. What is the name for a donut designer? I feel like there should be one. A donutier. I feel like It actually needs to be like a Slavic or Germanic name instead of tending towards the French. Because, you know, fried round pastries, I feel like, are they're very, very Slavic. The Journaling Broom says a pastry chef. You're not making this fun, the Journaling Broom. We get a chance to invent a new name. Also, is it really... Are donuts a pastry? This is the question I have. Because I'm not sure donuts are a pastry because they're fried. And I think maybe once you're frying everything that you make, it may not be a pastry. This might be the only chocolate donut that I could probably finish. Oh, Dean speaks no German, but attempted to make a German one. A Donentenfünfenviertel. I feel like donut probably is just like round fried pastry in German. I think it's actually probably donut. I think it's just donut. It'd be das Donut. But it would be Donut Macher or Donut Chefin. Donut Artsen. Donut Artsen. Donut Artsen would be like donut doctor. Donut Künstler or Donut Künstlerin would be the feminine version of that, which would be donut artist. I think I like that one. The donut is der Krampfen. I think it might be one of those things where there is a German word, but everybody just calls it donut. Okay. Der Krampfen Künstler. That's der Krampfen Künstler. That might be too harsh. Sorry. Okay. The fact that this is making me like chocolate, because the pomegranate flavor is so strong, and the glaze comes like all the way down. If you can see. You can't because it's like totally a black donut. If I bring it like really close, you might be able to see. The glaze comes all the way down to the bottom. And I think this donut might have to be rated a 5 out of 5. What's the word for engineer? We just learned this in German class. What? I'm trying to get more of the chili lime flavor in here. Oh no. I'm losing so many pieces of donut. Both these donuts have a lot of mess involved. I feel like the blackberry is just gonna stain everything. It's like blackberry with food dye in it. Oh, it is engineered. Right, they took it from French. Because actual engineering is technique. But... all right, the blackberry one is 4 out of 5. But the pomegranate one is 5 out of 5 simply because, I mean, it got me to like chocolate. I feel like that alone. Should we do Flu for the Week? I can stay on the stream and read you more horror stories. Or just look at Portland Zillow, and then we can look at the prices compared against the median household income in Portland. And that's the real horror story right now. Oh, yes. First, we actually have some submissions of floofs that have their little costumes on. Why can I not airplay? Where's the airplay button? Here we go. You want more horror stories? All right, I'll do it. Floofs than spoofs. All right, first of all, we are going to show off some very cute floofs and costumes before we do the floofs of the week. This appears to be a greyhound dressed as Gandalf, which, I mean, yes. Gandalf? Frodo? I don't know my Lord of the Rings very well, I'm sorry. But there's a ring and a cape, so. Also, I love how much this greyhound just appears to be fine with just wandering around in a dragging cape. Oh my god. Look at this. How cute. This is not a floof, but very cute, and also most of this was apparently made by the occupant, which I think is pretty impressive. Okay, so next up, Lord of the Floofs. It's a good name. All right, so next up is Floof of the Week. Floof of the Week is a thing that we do to celebrate all of the wonderful people that support the Oh My Dollar show and workshops with low-income and homeless youth on personal finance, and the live streams and transcripts and the forums through the Personal Finance Society, which is our name for our Patreon. And last week, I made Dora the Floof of the Week because no one had submitted their floofs, but then, excellently, several people submitted their floofs, and I told H. Larson that their floof was going to be the floof this week. However, I felt like because it was a spooky stream, I would make Neil, who is Fuzzbubble's floof, the floof of the week, because Black Cat. I felt like a Black Cat was important. So, Neil is floof of the week. Neil is a tuxedo cat, black on white, and black on the top, white on the bottom, who often looks like a void in photos. Look at this, though, with the little bottom. I've had her for about 12.5 years, and she was guessed to be about a year when I got her. She loves hiding in the dark steps and under my feet, and she always wants a lick of what I'm eating, but has no interest in cat treats. She is not a lap cat, but likes to sit at an arm's length and always greets me at the door when I return home. Great companion, 11 out of 10, would adopt again. Thank you, Fuzzbubbles, for being a patron and also for showing us Neil. Look at this. Look at this. I also don't know if it's Neil or Nell. I'm sorry. Maybe Nell. Nell? Nell. I think it might be Nell. That's my floof. Look at this. Look how round. I like when they cover their faces. It's just too good. So next week we will have even more floofs. If you are a patron, please send in pictures of your floof and little details about them to questions@ohmydollar.com or DM them to me on the Oh My Dollar forums. And they will be in the queue for Floof of the Week. And thank you all for being patrons and supporting Oh My Dollar. It has been the majority of the income for Oh My Dollar this year because I am also working a full-time job, so I am not taking a bunch of sponsorships and hustling a bunch, so thank you so much. It has made a huge difference to being able to get workshops out and do it without having to worry about taking weird, scammy, gross sponsorships or have those ads that broke the forums for like 24 hours. Man, those are rough 24 hours. Yep, Nell. Okay, I hope that means I'm pronouncing it right, Nell. I feel like it could be pronounced either way, but that just maybe is because I just came from German class the other day. All right. Should we do another horror story? Do we want another horror story? This one is maybe a little... Oh, Cat Cam has moved to the couch. Cat Cam's in a different room now. It's kind of a better view of Cat Cam. I feel like Cat Cam needs bat wings, though. I think bat wings might happen while I lead into this story. All right. So our next financial horror story. This one comes to us from the ABC 10 News San Diego affiliate. These days, the only person who can keep Kevin and Nicole positive is their 1-year-old son, Declan. Otherwise, they are tormented. We can't sleep, Nicole says. You go through so many different feelings, and then the worst part in the morning, because you just want to wake up and you keep feeling like it's still real. You just want to wake up and feel like it didn't happen, and it did. The couple is living a nightmare, just days after they thought they'd achieved the American dream. They're staying with family in Solano Beach at a time they thought they'd have closed in their dream home in Carlsbad, where they hoped to create a happy childhood for Declan. All of this was for him, Nicole says. The house, with the yard, with the schools, so that he could have a sibling. But instead, their roughly $775,000 down payment for the home, 60% of the purchase price, is now in the hands of a hacker in an account in Singapore. The money, which came from prior home ownership and inheritance, was supposed to go to lowering the couple's cost of living. Nicole is a nurse and Kevin is a chef, so they hope to make the move more manageable. It's literally all the money that we have to get this house so that we could have a low enough mortgage payment that we could afford. Nicole says she starts receiving fake emails from a hacker posing as employees at her escrow company and her real estate agent, who was away due to a death in the family. Kevin says that the emails were sent with duplicate signatures and addresses that appeared as contacts in their phone when clicked. The Knorrs are taking specific aim at their escrow company, saying an employee emailed them official wire instructions via an unsecured email. The instructions did not have account numbers, but the Knorrs say the hacker got that email, duplicated the document, and sent it back with account numbers to a Bitcoin exchange. The couple took that document, which did not catch the Bitcoin clue at the bank. After the wire, Nicole called the escrow company she thought she had wired money to, which said that should have triggered them since they never actually sent her instructions. They called back. They called to tell me what time the notary would be here the next day to sign our loan documents, Nicole said. They have also contacted the FBI in addition to weighing their legal options. The FBI says Californians are the biggest target of these kinds of scams. Many escrow companies have warnings about saying never to accept wire instructions via email and to instead call. Another strategy is just to forward all emails to the escrow agent, not just hit reply without looking at the address. In 2019, 50,000 Californians fell victim to internet financial scams, losing more than $593 million, the highest number in the U.S. Typically, the escrow will send wire instructions to the buyer through some sort of secured email, so be very suspicious if you receive unsecured wire instructions. Also, the couple that did this set up a GoFundMe to try to make up for the loss. I feel like GoFundMe is kind of terrifying, but there you go. There's another one. I feel like a lot of these are coming from real estate. Oh, now we have a bat. This is pretty cute. We could just watch Dora for the rest of the night. I'm going to eat more of this donut. It's really good.
What are you doing?
Is she coming back?
No, she's decided to be on the floor.
She has moved to the floor, apparently. She's probably incapacitated by cat sideways costume syndrome, which is a, yep, that sideways cat costume syndrome. Oh, man, we should be putting this on the stream. She has now been affected by sideways cat costume syndrome, which is what happens to cats when you put costumes on them and then they can't get off the floor anymore. Pretty nice overhead view that we got, though. It almost looks like she could be a bat hanging upside down. I'm gonna finish all of this donut. I told you this would be a chill live stream. Although you're probably now terrified. I have another spooky one that is not about real estate, but instead about medical bills, which is, of course, the US healthcare system is the real one. That's the biggest monster of them all. Maggie Underwood says it's like that book series from when I was a kid. What book series? There's not enough information for me. Oh, is it the book series where everything goes wrong? I feel like there is. I feel like I remember this kid's book series where it was like the worst, no good, bad day. Maybe it was the Bernstein Bears had a day like that. Oh, this is related to the cat. Cat wings. I have not read that, but Dora certainly thinks that she is cat wings. This is all happening in the other room, so I'm watching this just as much as you are. A series of unfortunate events. I'm actually thinking of the Berenstain Bears and the horrible, no good, terrible day or something like that. I think. But that wasn't a series. The Berenstain Bears was a series, but the book itself was just one book. Y'all, this donut is almost as good as the floofs. So if Dora is a superhero, is she cat bat or bat cat? I think she's bat cat. She's acting very dramatic, but the problem is she looks so good in those wings. It's very hard to take them off when she looks that cute. She's gonna get them off pretty soon, though, with the way she's rolling around. I think she's figured out if she just puts a paw on them when she rolls, she'll be able to undo the Velcro. Oh, back to being a little... Oh yeah, you can tell from that tail that she is, not the happiest about the bat wings. Oh, she tried to get up, but she can't get up because she's being held down by this piece of felt. Does anyone else have a cat affected by sideways costume-induced syndrome? It's quite the affliction. It occurs in like 90% of cats. I like that she can't walk around, but she thinks it's perfectly fine to roll around. She's walking. Oh, gave up. Lemony Snicket's a series of unfortunate events. That wasn't the one I was thinking of, but it seems like everybody is suggesting that one. I was just thinking of the Berenstain Bears, I'm pretty sure. I think Arthur, too, had a terrible, no good day. I didn't realize that Arthur was still putting out, like, new episodes. I don't know if they're putting out new books, but apparently, like, one of the characters became canon gay married something in the show this year. Is it like the Greyhounds with shoe things? I don't know about the Greyhounds with shoe things, but do I need to look up pictures of Greyhounds wearing shoes on the internet? It's Alexander in the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Mr. Ratburn, yeah, that was the character that became gay married. I think there might be several children's books that went with the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. No, the Berenstain Bears also had it. I'm gonna look it up. I think there were several of these. Okay, yeah. You are correct. It is that. But then the Berenstain Bears was the why do good bears have bad days? I think. But yes. Wasn't there an Arthur, though, that was also like a terrible day one? Okay. The Italian Greyhound hates her shoes on YouTube. Cool. We can restream YouTube content. I'm looking up Italian Greyhound hates her shoes. I told you all this was going to be low key. Oh my god. Yes, we have to watch this video. Although the problem is that our cat cam is also our board operation. So are all Italian Greyhounds just like opposed to this? Aaron, we need to play this Italian Greyhound video. It is pretty good cat content, but now it's just her taking a bath as opposed to rolling around. I don't know, do you all want to watch that? Abel Jack says, it's not the bears, your rugness is upsetting me. No, that you're correct. It is a different title for the terrible, no good day. But the Berenstain Bears also had a terrible day book. But it was, why do good bears have bad days? That was the title for that one. We have to watch this Italian Greyhound movie now instead of my cat cleaning her belly. This is important content here. If it ever loads. Oh my god. It's like hard to look away from watching her little feet like this. I feel like this is less dramatic than the sideways induced cat syndrome. Oh, are we planning on destroying the costume now, Dora? Is that what's happening? Yeah, dogs really, really do hate shoes a lot of the time. Some of them love them. Anybody want to tell me what they're doing this week? Before we go? We've been streaming for over an hour, so, you know. With quality content, surely. I can also read you this other spooky story if you want to read this spooky story. This last spooky story. Or we could just look at the prices on Zillow in Portland. Oh yeah, when dogs like shake their feet, it's very funny. Maggie into Woods is another story. Nobody wants to talk about how their week is. They just want me to read about people's terrible weeks. All right, well, this one is called The Berenstain Bears and the Terrible Pediatrician's Office. This one comes from the Reddit legal advice thread. 3 months ago, just after my wife had given birth to our baby boy, she took him in for a voluntary follow-up at his pediatrician's office to meet with a lactation consultant. During the visit, the lactation consultant and RN noticed a small purple-colored mark on our baby's forearm. The consultant assumed it was a bruise and asked my wife if she knew how he got the bruise. My wife said she didn't even think it looked like a bruise. She had no idea where it came from and must have just recently appeared. The consultant then leaves the office for a moment, seeming very concerned. When she returns to the office, she says she spoke with our baby's doctor and we need to take him immediately to Children's Hospital to get blood work done because this could be a sign of some kind of issue. The consultant also mentioned that she had to make a phone call to CPS because my wife could not identify where the bruise came from. My wife immediately leaves and goes to the Children's Hospital to the lab for the blood test. Upon arrival, my wife is told that there are no orders for a blood test. My wife waits for a while. There are still no orders in her name, so she goes home to await further instructions. She takes a nap with the baby. During her nap, and while I'm at work, her pediatrician's office gets the impression that we never went to the Children's Hospital. Apparently, we were supposed to go straight to the emergency room, but they never told my wife anything about the emergency room. My wife was left to figure out for herself which part of the hospital to arrive at. Anyways, the pediatrician's office makes a phone call attempt to my wife and to me. Neither one of us pick up because I'm at work and she's asleep. 10 minutes later, I see the missed call and immediately call the office back. The office tells me that we need to go to Children's Hospital emergency room right away, and that they also placed another call to Child Protective Services to let them know that we did not follow doctor's orders and report to the hospital. I remind them that they didn't tell us which part of the hospital to arrive at, and that we did in fact make an attempt to go to Children's Hospital. So we rush to the emergency room, where we are met with multiple social workers and Child Protective Services, as well as our town's police department, who make a police report on us. They also force us to have our other son brought to the emergency room, and they proceed to do a massive workup on both of them, not just a physical checkup, but blood work, CAT scans, and the whole 9 yards. We had to miss work while stuck in that hospital for 48 hours. In the end, the neurologist at Children's Hospital who was attending our case informed us that the baby never had a bruise. The baby just likes to suck on his arm, which gives him a small hickey. He mentioned how ridiculous it was for our pediatrician's office to not know this. At this point, we mentioned to the neurologist that our pediatrician had never even come into the room to look at the bruise. Now we are receiving bills from the hospital. Lots of them. Over $30,000 in bills. And of course, our insurance has confirmed they will not be covering these expenses because testing was completely unnecessary and would have needed to be approved first. My family tells me I should be suing my pediatrician's office for the cost of my children's medical care that day at Children's Hospital. One, there are a bunch of protections in place for mandatory reporters, which all of these people were. So they're not going to get any money out of the pediatrician's office. That being said, they can work with the hospital to force the insurance to cover this. But who is the real problem here? You could try to sue them, but the cost of a medical malpractice suit for something like this, for blood work or anything, is going to cost more to them than it is going to cost to get the bills negotiated down. And the hospital has lawyers who can negotiate with the insurance. But all of this is just covering up the fact that 2 children getting basic blood work at emergency room is $30,000 of bills. So, there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot to do here that has nothing at all to do with this one person's kind of aggressive oversight and reporting, which, as a mandatory reporter, you are told, any sign whatsoever, you should report. The aggressive reporting, and then the idea that you would make a child go to a baby go to the emergency room instead of a lab for a blood test is extreme. Maggie in DeWood says, was there any demographic info on the parents? I wonder if this was some discrimination BS. It's Reddit, so it could also be a creative writing exercise. Who knows? But, whew. The Journaling Broom says, right, just imagine if there were something up with the kids and they were sick. The forcing a child when the baby came into the doctor the ER the same day. In the end, after that expensive, and the whole idea of having them bring in the other kid before anything was wrong on the first kid, and that this all started from a bruise, but there was no evidence of a bruise on the other kid, so many of these things. Yes. Maggie Underwood says mandatory reporting is very unequally reported based on people's biases. Of course, right? I mean, there is discrimination and there is internal biases in all of these institutions that are part of mandatory reporting. And then additionally, the people that tend to be more prone to doing reporting when they feel like there may be mandatory reporting to do are more likely to be installed in low income facilities, community clinics, any of those things. So the likelihood that they are serving people that are systemically discriminated in this healthcare system is the same way. Jenny says, how on earth are bloods that expensive? I was a crit care nurse for 12 years in Canada and bloods don't cost that much here. Well, nothing costs that much there because nowhere is as expensive as the United States. They did also say they also got a CT scan. But welcome to America. That's all I gotta say. Dora also agrees that we do not support any of this. Welcome to America. Anything that you get done in an ER is going to cost so much more, which is also true in other countries as far as the cost of the system. But yeah, you know why they cost so much? Because America is bananas. My medication, the same formulation, is 1/10 the price in Canada. And it is the same formulation of a biological and everything. It's highway robbery here, what we charge. And the worst part is we don't get better stuff. We don't get more of it. We just pay more for it. Cheryl says, oh my, when Lily, that being me, had a second set of stitches for figure skating injuries, we thought we would be mandatory reported. Yeah, it was like, how did you get this? It was like, a flying camel? Which was the truth, but doesn't sound very feasible, right? Iris Bear says the insurance should be covering those expenses, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that there is, if you're looking at who's going to make progress on this, you're going to have the hospital push the insurance company, especially if the hospital was in network. But yeah, they're not going to get anything out of the pediatrician's office because of the mandatory reporter protections, which is fair. I'm glad they have them. The Journaling Broom says, I'm so sad about the American healthcare system. Even the infrastructure bill was supposed to include expansion of Medicare. They couldn't even do that. It was cut out. Dean says, the only thing I would say that you get is time with your doctors. We get 10 minutes and then out the door. That is the true here as well. We actually, if you look at total amount of time and patient confidence in provider communication and time with their doctors, America ranks below the UK. And we quantitatively spend less time because the same amount of billing happens here in the United States. So people are incentivized to see more and more patients because there is a incentive to get seeing more and more patients because they get paid more. So yeah, I mean, we have the data to back up the fact that Americans literally don't get more of anything. And it's so frustrating. We spend the most money on it. We have some of the best minds, technology, some of the best research is happening in the US, and that does not in any way translate into better patient care. It translates into worse outcomes. So yeah. Dean says, or we have to wait for years. I mean, that's also, all healthcare systems have their problems, but it is extremely common to wait for years in the United States as well, right? Like, it's just as normal. I mean, obviously, every country in the world is dealing with it right now because of all of the slowdowns in healthcare with COVID-19 and, non life saving surgeries being put off due to COVID and stuff like that. But yeah, the costs are terrifying in the US, but also we have worse outcomes. So it's like, in addition to the massive inequality that the costs in the US have in the system, we have worse outcomes for people. There's nothing good about the way that we deliver healthcare in this country. And it isn't the underlying technology, it's the way that we pay for it, and the profit incentives built into the system have all united to create something so fundamentally flawed. And it's very frustrating. Dean says, really? Wow. So it's 5 minutes. Here's the expensive medication you don't need, and then out the door. I mean, yes, but then then have to deal with all of the paperwork from the insurance and the time on the phone. So I spent, last year I tracked, in the year last year, I spent 38 hours on the phone dealing with insurance and getting my drug just delivered. And this was just trying to get it approved by my insurance company, trying to make sure it could actually get properly covered, setting up copay assistance, all of those things. That's just for one drug that nobody disagrees that I need, right? Like, there's no part of the system. That's how much time I spent on the phone just dealing with trying to get my drug on insurance in the US. And I have employer-sponsored healthcare insurance, and I'm extremely educated about this. Most people are not as educated, nor do they have access to a job that they might not have access to a job and the time that they're going to be able to have all that time waiting for that. Jenny says, I used to run bloods on a patient before I would go tell the doctor to prescribe it because it was already done. Fuzzbubble says, the one time I went to the ER, I was shocked to know that the hospital was in network, but the doctor was not. They didn't tell me this till I got a huge bill. Yeah, so this is, both of these wrists were broken. Total cost for this wrist was $30,000. Total cost for this wrist was $27,000. The out-of-pocket maximum for both of these, which applied after I broke both of these after the ACA applied, so was $7,250, which was my stop loss as a person. Thank you to the ACA. And like, the whole time I was going into surgery for this one, I was terrified because I was on a PPO and I was on Providence Insurance in Providence Hospital. But I have seen so many cases of this where you have, you deal with like the exact problem of like, it turns out the anesthesiologist is out of network, and they're out of network, and I had zero out of network coverage. So even though I'd already hit my out-of-pocket maximum, if anybody touched me, even when I was asleep, and it's quite common, and I was joking as I was being wheeled in, are you out of network? Are you in network? Are you in network? Cheryl says, I get all the time I want with my doctors. I wonder why I'm different. Probably because you are a white, middle-aged lady. Sorry to say. Middle class as well, right? Like, the inequities in the system are very much true. And it also, it depends. Like, it really depends on which doctors I'm going to, which insurance I'm on, what concern I'm getting seen for. But quantitatively, we have the data that we're not getting more time with doctors, nor are we particularly waiting less time. Jenny says, I feel like the problems in the Canadian healthcare system are overlooked by most Canadians because we look to the States and say, well, we're not that bad. Yeah, I mean, prescription drug coverage should 100% be part of your national healthcare system. And so many of the like issues within the like system is so many of the issues within your prescription drug care being done kind of the same way that America does health insurance, I believe means that you run a lot of the same risks. I mean, obviously you do have like more bulk negotiation, for drug prices, you have more caps on drug pricing. So it's obviously not as bad as the United States. But like, I think a lot of the ways that you handle things is like, I think the way that you do drug coverage and like alternative therapy coverage can run a lot of the same risks as the United States system. That being said, like you said, nobody would pay to get a broken wrist fixed in Canada. So, Jenny says, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I am very well educated on this subject, and so it was fine. And it was particularly fine for me because my drug is $7,800 a month here in the US, but that means I hit my out-of-pocket maximum every year in February. So Cheryl says, you're not kidding. You really were asking. No, I really was asking. I think it might have been the first thing I asked when I woke up from anesthesia. Are you in network? Luckily, I never got a billing for an out-of-network anesthesiologist. But the really frustrating thing to me is the anesthesiologists don't know if they're in network or not, because they don't know anything about their billing, because frankly, you don't want your anesthesiologist to know a ton about billing, right? Like, you want them to be very good at what they are doing, because if they aren't, they could kill you. And you don't want them to be extremely good at knowing what their negotiations are with their provider group and their anesthesiology group. But I know quite a few friends that despite having insurance, despite being in an in-network hospital, the surgeon was out of network or the anesthesiologist was out of network, and there's just no way you could know. And, you know, when you get a explanation of benefits, which is what we call that, it's not quite the bill, but it's the itemized list of everything that will be in the bill, which often takes like months to actually show up. The explanation of benefits in the United States, quite often, if you go into the hospital for anything, you'll see it, and it's the rates that they charge is outrageous. You know, it'll be like $40 for an Advil, and things like that aren't actually reflecting in the cost because it's building in all of the administration costs. But it's hard. It's hard. I started feeling like American healthcare was a simple system to fix, and the problem was that as I learned more and more about various parts of it, I realized how it's not just simple, right? I think, you know, one of the, most frustrating parts about being excited about a lot of the talking points around American healthcare reform is that we have a lot of energy right now towards single-payer healthcare here in the United States, and Bernie Sanders really popularized this phrase of Medicare for all. And Medicare is what older adults in the U.S. get. It is our socialized healthcare here. And the frustrating thing is that isn't enough because our system is so rotten from the core. And a lot of people are going to have to give up a lot of profits that they've been making for a long time. We're going to have to shift a lot of the administration built into our healthcare system for profits. And it's just really frustrating. So the Journaling Broom says it absolutely sucks that the prices are never up front either. You won't know the price of what you'll pay until afterwards. Yes, although I will say that now emergency rooms are actually required as of this year. Hospitals are actually required to publish a list of rates, but here's the thing, they're allowed to post ranges, and the ranges, some of them are outrageously large. So, yeah. Dean says, yeah, be good at the anesthesiology, not the money is definitely preferable. But I mean, that's the thing is like, they do have to spend a ton of time. The American healthcare providers spend more time on administration and billing and dealing with insurance and everything like that than any other country in the world. And I know if you come from a single payer or socialized healthcare system, it's hard to imagine that there could be more paperwork involved than the system that you're under, because obviously if you've got a lot of government bureaucracy involved in your healthcare, it's it's very easy to be like, obviously, this is the most paperwork that anybody can do. But think about anyone you owe money to. How many people there involves? There's got to be accountants to track it. There's got to be someone to figure out how to bill your cart and get the rate and code it. Then there has to be someone to find you, argue with the insurance, then have to, come back to the hospital, be like, this is what it is. Pay the hospital, then whatever's left, they've got to pay you and try to chase after that. And the amount of chains of how many pieces of administration are. So my drug is what's called a specialty drug. And in the US, these are only handled by specialty pharmacies. It's not true everywhere in the world, but it is true here. Specialty pharmacies are pharmacies that work particularly with mostly refrigerated medications, chemotherapy drugs, things like that. And my medication is a biological, which is the largest growing class of drugs in the world. They have been life-changing for a lot of people with autoimmune disorders. And my biological, every time I change insurance, I need to have my doctor send in every possible medical record I ever have to get it then pre-authorized before I can just get my script filled. They will not fill more than a 30-day script of this drug, and the script has to come to me by an overnight refrigerated courier. I would like to emphasize that I live walking distance to several pharmacies, including the pharmacy that hires the courier to get my drug out to me in one of my old insurance plans. Now it gets overnighted on FedEx and is all packed in this massive amount of styrofoam and everything. So, want to talk about the administration of this drug? This is how many people I have to talk to get it. And this is not a controlled substance, to be clear. The only reason it is so hard to get is because my insurance company desperately does not want to have to cover it, right? So there are a lot of people in order to put a cost control into place. So this drug has gone up 8 times in price since I originally got it in 2015. So in that time of years, it has increased 8 times in its price. It's now over $10,000 a month as the regular price. It gets billed at $7,800 to me. But if you look it up, it is $10,000 per month for a 28-day supply. So this drug, I have to, in addition to getting it pre-authorized every time I switch insurance, which often is every year for me, the addition of the rate of what we do with our, the addition of what we actually deal with is that then I have to get on copay assistance from the pharmaceutical company. So the pharmaceutical company pays on my behalf up to $12,000 a year, which conveniently means that I hit my out-of-pocket maximum using their money. They enroll me in this debit card program. Essentially, and I use this debit card to pay my copay, which my copay is $7,800 because I have no coverage for this drug until I hit my deductible, and I'm on a high deductible plan, which have been pushed extremely highly and was one of the only options at my workplace because I work for a small employer. So, additionally, we pay, so on top of that, I have to enroll in that program. Then they send me this debit card. Then what do I have to do? No, I can't just go to any pharmacy. I can't go to the pharmacy across the street from me, the other one across the street from me, the other one 2 blocks away. No, I have to use a third-party pharmacy benefit manager. They have a normal pharmacy benefit manager for the insurance company, but they have a special one for specialty drugs. This specialty one, I have to call every month, get it reauthorized, then they send me the shipment. They send the shipment over to FedEx, and then FedEx brings it to my house. And then this rebill has to happen every 28 days for me. So super great. It's wonderful for me. Dean says, our prescription charge flat rate per packet of medication is $9.35. Yeah, and if you are on multiple medications, you can roll it all together and prepay, which is much better. I know every time I hear about what people are like, oh yeah, the prepay saved me so much money. And I'm like, $9.35 pounds. So $11 US, 11 to 13, depending on the exchange rate. is like the best possible deal that I can get for drugs. Aaron says, the explanation of benefits, the way insurance companies passive aggressively tell you how much you love you love them. Yeah, kind of. Or how much they don't care about you because they actually decided not to pay for all of these things. Jenny says, are Americans paying income tax at the same rate as Canadians? Our healthcare is paid for in our income taxes. Yeah, I mean, we also pay for healthcare in our income taxes. Our federal income taxes pay for Social Security and Medicaid, Medicare. And those are our low-income healthcare programs, which only apply in states that took the Medicare, the Medicaid expansion, and then Medicare is for everyone that's 65 and older. So we do already pay actually about the same percentage that you pay out of your income taxes in Canada. But Americans actually pay the largest percentage of GDP of any country in the world towards healthcare. And that's when you break it down by anything per capita, by GDP, everything for actually worse outcomes. So you can compare by looking at tax rate in different countries, but effectively it feels like tax rates to us because most of us get our insurance either through the employer and it's taken out of our paycheck. So it kind of feels the same. So yeah. Dean says, and if on benefits, it's free. Yeah. Well, here, if you qualify for Medicaid and you're in a state with expansion, you may have reduced or no copays for drugs. But other than that, no. Iris Bear says, by the time I get an EOB, I've usually forgotten all about the appointment. I know, for real. Sometimes it can take like 6 months for things to show up. Siren Eye says, your earrings are giving me life. Thanks. I have an even bigger version of them. Aaron made them on the 3D printer. I have an even bigger version of them that will show up in my Instagram photos when we edit them. But yeah, the income tax in each state is different. And obviously federal income taxes are, we have a progressive tax system the same as Canada. So it depends on your income, what you're paying, and how many things you choose to write off. So the state income taxes do not usually go towards healthcare, although there are exceptions to that. California and Massachusetts do put some of their state income taxes. I believe Washington is also paying for some of it as well, although I think most of Washington's revenue for their low income, I think it's called Apple Cares or something because it's Washington. I can't remember what their brand name is for their low-income healthcare, but I think most of that revenue actually comes from sales tax for them. So we also don't have VAT here, like every other normal country in the world. Sorry. We have sales tax that's totally arbitrary and assigned randomly, and we don't have it in my state. So, yeah, it's great. Maggie in the Wood says, no income tax up here in Washington. Oh, right. Yes. I should know that because everybody moves up there to escape income tax. I live right on the border between Oregon and Portland is right on the border, right over the river. And it's Vancouver, Washington is the city that's like in the same metro area. And there's a lot of people who move to Washington to save on income taxes, but then they do all their shopping in Oregon where we don't have sales tax. So Maggie in DeWood says, but 10% sales tax. I don't know. It's complicated. Sales taxes are complicated because, you know, they're actually more regressive than income tax, but effectively, yeah. Cheryl says, how does Hawaii pay for their health care? Well, quite a lot of people are military in Hawaii, so we all pay for it. But how does Hawaii pay for their Medicaid? I mean, right now, any state that took a Medicaid expansion, 97% of the cost of that are being paid by the federal government. But Siren Eye says, income tax is really not bad in Missouri, neither is the property tax. I moved from California partially for the difference in taxation. Well, if you came from California, everywhere is going to feel like it has less tax. It's the most taxed state in the country, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I think Massachusetts might beat you. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it'll feel very different. But yeah, our property tax in Oregon is very interesting because, as probably portended by the fact that I was going to show you Portland Zillow to try to scare you and spook you because our real estate market is out of control. Hawaii is free healthcare. I don't believe that. I would know that if that was true, wouldn't I? I feel like that would be a thing I know. Okay, I'm gonna look this up. I think they just have Medicaid. No, it's just low-income adults. It's just Medicaid. They had a plan for universal health care. But it didn't actually happen because the ACA happened. So, yeah. Spooky Kitten Cam. She is, like, excellently spooky. This is pretty good. Should we stop streaming? I feel like... Oh, I also think it's, like, particularly spooky that a picture of the cat sleeping is behind the cat. Siren I said, I would move to Hawaii in an instant if the healthcare was free. The cost of living might be high, but free healthcare is priceless. Too bad it isn't free. Well, you know... Look out for it. I mean, that is my, for people that might not know on the stream, I applied for Croatian citizenship via heritage route, as my grandfather is from Croatia, and that essentially the EU is my backup plan. And I know the EU is not doing amazing right now, but literally anywhere in the world has, anywhere in the rich world has a better, more sane healthcare system than the United States. The United States healthcare system is just fundamentally broken. And obviously I'm pushing for stuff and reforms in it. You know, I do lobbying with my patient advocacy group, but I think the hardest part about being part of a patient advocacy group is that in the end, a lot of the stuff I'm asking for because they benefit patients under the American healthcare system is frankly just lobbying for the pharmaceutical companies, because these drugs are so important to people with diseases, but the way that the pharmaceutical companies just like extend their, for example, my drug has a 39-year patent in the US. It's out of patent protection in every other country in the world. You know, it's just, I'm watching right now Dope Sick, which is a dramatization on Hulu of the opioid crisis in America. And it's largely because I started watching it because, one, obviously I love myself some American healthcare horror stories. And I've seen a lot of people affected by opioid crisis in the United States, like through my work. And I wanted to know if I should hate the Sacklers as much as everybody says I should, because I'm not like particularly knowledgeable about the ins and outs of like, were the Sacklers doing something particularly evil? But the thing that I've taken the most away from this is how much the way that I advocate on behalf of arthritis patients, on behalf of people with autoimmune disorders, when I go to lobby days, that is exactly the same tools that were used and utilized by the Purdue Pharma in order to make OxyContin fuel essentially an opioid crisis. I didn't really realize it. But you know those pain charts, like maybe you don't have these outside of the United States, but when you go to the doctor and you go to like the ER, they'll have like a pain chart on the wall that has a bunch of little graphics of how do you feel, and it's like a terrible face and like light face, and they'll ask you to rate your scale on your pain on a scale of 0 to 5 or 0 to 10, pointing at these faces. I didn't realize that those weren't commonplace thing. Before essentially late 1990s, when OxyContin was being pushed through some very creative marketing methods for which they won quite a lot of drug advertising awards for. But What they in particular did was that Purdue Pharmaceuticals, that made OxyContin, funded all of these patient advocacy groups, the Pain Network, the Pain Advocacy Network, the Pain Patients Group, that were nonprofits that were wholly funded by Purdue Pharma, that then advocated to get these pain charts and everything in emergency care rooms, in doctors' rooms, doctors' offices, in order to start a conversation about pain between the patient and the provider. And in theory, this sounds great, right? Like, we want more conversations about pain. We want pain to be treated. They also push this concept of pain being the fifth vital signal. I did not realize that none of that was actually being pushed by medical literature. It was actually being pushed by these pain advocacy group nonprofits, all of which were funded by Purdue Pharmaceuticals. I mean, they also did some super sketchy stuff as far as getting a special FDA labeling that said OxyContin was not addictive. So that's great. Ariel Johnson says, I remember thinking, why wouldn't California make free healthcare? And then discovered it would cost 2x their current budget. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things with Hawaii is they had this universal healthcare plan, but it was rising as a percentage of their total like state GDP. San Francisco did make universal healthcare, like even pre-ACA in the city of San Francisco. But the problem was like, and they did it by like essentially taxing restaurants. The problem was that the people that now San Francisco as a city has gotten so screwed up and so corrupt, they're actually being investigated. The city of San Francisco is being investigated by the federal government for its corruption in the United States. But San Francisco's gotten so unaffordable that the people that universal healthcare was meant to reach, the people that are serving and own restaurants and working in blue collar and pink collar professions, they can't afford to live in the city of San Francisco, so it didn't actually affect them. The Journaling Broom says, is it even possible for a state to have free healthcare / affordable healthcare? Well, it kind of depends on what your definition of affordable is, because is it that the insurance is affordable? Because that's one question, right? Because I don't actually think that my premiums are outrageous. The problem is that the cost controls in actually what my insurance gets billed for is out of control and does not actually reflect the cost of doing that service, because there's a lot of people taking cuts along the line. For example, my pharmaceutical company, which I figured out if my insurance company flew me every single month to Tijuana. They flew me to Mexico, put me up in a 4-star hotel, gave me a per diem, and had me walk into any Mexican pharmacy, you can check the prices online, to pick up my drug, and then flew me home. And if they did that every month for me to get my 28-day supply, they would save $50,000 a year on me alone. That is my annual salary, right? So the amount that I pay for my premium is irrelevant. The problem is the cost controls in it. So no, I don't think it's possible for any place to have affordable healthcare without really tearing down some really fundamental parts of the system. Abel Jack was making the point that, as someone who is on VA insurance, like, the problem with the VA, which is single payer healthcare in the United States, is what you get if you're under TRICARE or VA in the US if you're military or retired military, is like, the problem with that system is that it's built upon the crumbling house of cards that is the rest of American healthcare. I really did turn this into a spooky stream, didn't I? Siren Eye says, even after dental insurance, my 2 dental implants cost me $12,000. American healthcare is crazy go nuts. I'm so sorry. It's so frustrating. That's why so many people do medical tourism, but the problem is a lot of the places that do medical tourism right now are locked down. So, because some of the best places to do dental tourism are like Thailand, for example, Vietnam, and those places are like super locked down. Siren Eye says, I love Croatia. It's fantastic there. The discount Italy. No! Don't call it the discount Italy. We have way more islands than Italy, all right? Well, I won't tell them that you said discount Italy. I won't tell the Hrvatska government because I need them to approve my citizenship application. Cat in cat picture is highly meta. Oh yeah, we can't use that word anymore. It's been trademarked. Apparently they filed the trademark application for that in 2015. Isn't that what you said, Aaron? 2015. So they've been thinking about themselves that long. This cat is so cute. Jenny says, here in Canada, pain is one of the vital signs. It doesn't mean we'll do anything about it other than write it down on your chart, but we sure do document it. Hey, you should investigate. Is pain one of the vital signs? Did that happen due to lobbying by pain organizations who were funded by Purdue? Because Purdue was not just focused on America. The Journaling Broom says, oh, dental insurance. Yeah, I've paid over $10K in dental since 2016. Then I find out the dentist put 2 of my crowns in wrong. And now I have to get it redone because it was causing gum inflammation. Ah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, dental is another example of something that isn't any part of the Canadian national healthcare system or the UK one. So, Siren says, I saved in my HSA for years to be able to do my dental stuff. The thing that I found very interesting, so Oregon Health Plan, which is our Medicaid plan here, it used to only cover, like many states, people that were pregnant and children. Those are the only people that were covered under it in Oregon prior to the ACA and the Medicaid expansion. And I used to work at a house for homeless young mothers, and a lot of the women there, they were between the ages of 18 and 24, and a lot of them had very screwed up teeth due to methamphetamine use, from, childhood poverty, from living in a state that doesn't have any fluoride in the water as a child, and not necessarily being in the kind of household or environment that was encouraging them to get fluoride in other ways. And when they were pregnant, we would just take them to get as many things as we could possibly get fixed, because, all of those folks almost all of them were regaining custody of their children after incarceration. And because of that, they were working like fast food jobs, whatever kind of jobs you could get with some sort of record. And they would never be able to afford any dental work whatsoever. Dental insurance is still pretty much how health insurance used to be in the United States prior to the ACA. The ACA did not fix the overall system, but it fixed a lot of flaws in the system. So, yeah. Jenny says, I looked it up and the McGill nursing model included pain as a vital sign in 1999, the same year it was included at Johns Hopkins in the state. And the year after OxyContin was approved by the Canadian Medical Board. So, yeah, it wasn't put on your national formulary, OxyContin, as a opioid pain treatment until 1998. Just gonna say. It's all a giant conspiracy, friend. Dean says, saying it's healthy to eat 5 fruit or veg per day was an advertising campaign too, I heard. Not originally a medical campaign at all. Correct. Weirdly, I wrote a paper about this. I wrote a paper about the American food pyramid and the evolutions the food pyramid went through for a food and American history class ages ago. But I had to do all this primary research, and I got all these like war records from the original origins of the food pyramid, and no, it's all just a giant lobbying scheme. Nothing about the food pyramid or anything is in any way indicative of anything but the ability to lobby. Siren Eye says, New Zealand is my backup plan. Nice. So here's the thing with me. No one will take me. So I can't have a backup plan unless I can get citizenship via some other means. Like, I can't even go to graduate school in Canada. They won't even take me for graduate school because, they also won't take you if you have had cancer recently. So, I can't even go to most places with national or socialized healthcare systems because they don't want me because I'm expensive. So, yeah. Dean says, "Oh gosh, was this me quoting your own paper back to you? I doubt that you read my paper in any way that I wrote during an undergraduate food and American history class. I should find it and put it online though. It was like my term paper. It was actually pretty well researched. I was actually thinking that hilarious but very silly stream topic would be to go find my thesis and just with shock and horror go look through the data sources. So I did my thesis on the rental market in Portland before we had like a massive housing crisis. And I have all the original data of how much different apartments cost and like what the zip code was and latitude, longitude, and everything. And I would love to go see how much they cost now. That's another horror stream for us. Ariel says, marketing has ruined us as a nation. Oh, yeah. Jenny says, I worked in a hospital for 12 years, and trust me, I know that it's all one huge corrupt system. I love that we're all feeling very optimistic at the end of this. Well, I promised a spooky stream. Siren says, why isn't dental included in healthcare insurance? I guess you don't need teeth to be healthy. I don't understand why. I don't understand why it's like, because the teeth are so important because if you have active infections in your mouth, that gets into your bloodstream directly. And so teeth are so important to the vital health of humans. It's like very frustrating to me. I think some of it might be a supply chain issue. Supply issue as far as labor of dentists. I don't really know. I don't really understand it. Dental school's hella expensive though in the United States. So this is another example. We can't fix the system until we fix how much people are paying for medical school in this country, right? Like, we can't undo systemic racism and discrimination in healthcare unless we make going into healthcare professions more accessible to people of more diverse backgrounds, particularly people that are in the professions that are making final call of service, right? Like doctors, surgeons, whatever. And we also just have to fix the whole thing because one of the problems is people will not go into the parts of the healthcare field in the United States where they're needed the most because they cannot afford to because of how expensive medical school is. And there's lots of countries that do not have the kind of student debt for doctors that we have here. It means that you have to control the flow in some other way, right? So, in France, they all doctors essentially get trained for free, but there is a limit to how many they have, and they allocate towards specialties, and it's very hard to get into those schools. In a lot of countries, they have figured out different ways to do it. In a lot of other countries, they make it so the student loans get repaid based on your earnings, and they just kind of come out of your paycheck, and they're not nearly as atrocious as they are here. So, yeah. Ariel says, dentists go into more debt than doctors because they have to set up a practice and their residencies aren't paid. Yeah, totally. And they take out practice loans as well. And often dental school is more expensive than medical school is as well because it's considered a professional school. So quite often it charges more. They have even higher amounts. But yeah, no, it's totally the same thing. There are a lot of dentists who are working like doing regular medical residencies and then also working a job. So yeah. Siren says, I see why healthcare arbitrage happens. 100%. I would never have a kid in America if you have American citizenship, so it'll be passed on to your kid no matter where in the world they were born. I think it's ridiculous to have a kid in America. It's just outrageously expensive. I mean, if you're on Medicaid or Medicare or something like that. But, I've known people that pre-ACA hit their lifetime maximum on their kids' insurance within the first month their kid was alive. And And there's just so many problems. And like, you know, you've got to hit a whole nother out-of-pocket maximum on your kid if your newborn child has any kind of medical problems, and it's just a mess. It's a mess. They also created this arbitrary rule called the birthday rule, which means that insurance companies just get to decide which insurance you're allowed to put your newborn kid on, and you don't get to say, well, I have insurance and the other parent has insurance and we want to choose the better insurance to put our kid under. Like, it's just, there's so many things. Siren Eye says, why can't we give all medical dental students full ride scholarships or grants while we fix the student loan issues? I don't know. It's a really interesting question. I think the answer is because those universities are completely reliant on the money that they get from tuition. Like, the tuition shouldn't be that high in the first place, right? But they then rely on getting that tuition in where it comes in from, whether it's from loans or from people that are able to afford that or whatever. Yeah. Jenny says college in Quebec is heavily subsidized, but cost of living is horrific. So unless someone can live at home while they go to college, it's still next to impossible to complete an education. I mean, Quebec is not usually top the list of places as far as tops the list of expensive places. Is it just horrifically expensive relative to the cost of what a student would get or whatever? Because that's also true for a lot of people that go to medical school here in the US, right? So the Journaling Broom says college used to be free in the United States. Well, it depends on which colleges you're talking about, but yeah, there's certainly plenty of colleges that were never free. Yeah, college has grown at a rapid and ridiculous rate. And you know why? Because we have federally backed student loans that cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. It's a real bad time, as Ariel said. It's a bad time all around. Well, you know what? I think that this was enough sad topics. You had a 2.5 hour trick or treat stream, trick or budget, whatever we're going to call this. 2 donuts, thorough cats, and thoroughly depressing. So, thank you all for joining for this nice and depressing stream. I told you it'd be spooky stories with no jump scares. And the real villain is really just the American healthcare system. So, I feel like I've left this on too of a depressing note. Maybe things will get better. Here's what I have to say. Other countries have figured things out better than we have in the United States. So, despite the American focus of this stream, of how depressing we all are, other countries have things figured out better. And I know our first story was about title fraud, essentially, or like title insurance. But a huge amount of the world does not have secure property rights. And America is actually pretty good at secure property rights compared to most of the world. So, you know, I'm happy. I'm happy that isn't a thing that America's bad at. Yeah, I'm trying to end this on an uplifting note, but thank you all for spending some time with me on this Halloween night. I hope you all have a lovely night. It's quite late for you folks that joined from the Eastern North America. So I hope you have a lovely night. You get to eat as much candy as you want to, whether that is none or lots. You know, if you see a black cat, maybe give it a pet. And I will see you all next week. Same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on Sundays here on this channel. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe, because I think we're going to hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel before it turns 15 years old in December. As you can tell, I'm not very motivated to chase subscribers, but thank you all for joining. It's been lovely to have you. And I think we'll go back to Cat Cam before we close. Good night.